So I'm going to share or start with the first poll in here. The first poll I would like to launch from my side, and I would request all the members to kindly take up the poll to give us understanding about what the mask leadership is all about. So the first poll is what I'm launching now for you all, and you'll be having it on the screen. So all the members feel free to share your answers on the poll. So every human being undergoes a challenging situation. So what do you think? Is it yes, is it no, or is it maybe? So quickly, I'm just giving another 30 seconds time to take up your poll. And then I will share the answers also from my side, based on which I will go more deeper into the model of the mask leadership. So yeah, so there are people who are taking up the polls. We are receiving all the three respective answers. There are people who are saying yes, there are people who are saying no, there are people who are saying maybe. But quickly, let's under 15 more seconds, and I would request all the members who are part of HRAI to take up the poll, and then we give more clarity. Done. So most of them have taken the last 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I'm ending the poll. Thanks very much. So let me share the results. I believe I've also shared the results on the screen, where 85% of people are sharing that yes, every human being undergoes a challenging situation. There are 4% of people are sharing that no, and we have 12% of people sharing that yes, maybe, not possible. So let's understand what's the base. So if I'd like to ask you or share with you, in fact, every human being has the potential to grow. However, the growth for a person is within oneself, or is it with others? What do you all think? Type your answers in the chat box. Every human being has the potential to grow, but is the growth is within self, or is it with others? You can just type your answer in the chat box, will help. Yes, no, within self. Thank you very much for sharing. Rightly told. Yes, every human potential has the ability to grow, but the growth is within oneself. Similarly, every human being has all the leadership qualities, but the leadership qualities, whether to demonstrate the leadership qualities, is within oneself only. And that's where this particular mask leadership model is being brought in. So let me give you a quick clarity about what the mask leadership is all about and why the title is being chosen. The mask here, what we mean is, it's more about non-usage of an appropriate leadership quality during the right time, right place, or with the right people. That's what we call it as a mask. I'm repeating again, the non-appropriate usage. All right, we're not using, we have the potential capabilities, but non-appropriate usage of the leadership qualities which we possess during the right time, right place, and right people is what we are determining here as the mask. Let me quickly give you an example so that you understand much better about what the mask is. This happened literally to one of our clients who is into the saree business. They are one of the largest silk saree promoters in the world. So one of the store manager has, in fact, they had a theft of one saree which was costing closer to 2 lakh rupees of a saree was theft. And since there was a theft, and there were 4 people, including the store managers, saying that, okay, what shall we do? It's a theft, so management will be asking us, so how shall we manage? Let's all take collective responsibility. Let's not share to the management the saree is being, that the theft has happened. We will keep it amongst ourselves, and we will put each one of our side money to solve it. But there was one person, Mr. X, in fact, his name is Mr. Murugan. What he did was he was having a kind of a feeling that let's be honest to the management. And the leadership quality which had to possess and portray in a challenging situation was to be honest to the management. But it stopped, and he has masked himself. That means, that's what I'm talking about. The mask here is a non-usage of an leadership quality during the right time, right place, and the right people, when it's been done, that's when you are masking yourself. So that means Mr. Murugan was supposed to take courage and he was supposed to go ahead and inform the management, but it missed. And since he has masked himself, is where he is facing huge challenges. And then he had finally, when the management got to know, he was supposed to leave the job. But what is stopping us? Because the whole purpose, if you could see, there are many such examples of masking is where I could be giving, where we would like to do or take up a quality of being honest, but when a challenging situation comes, we miss out. We would like to take up where responsibilities, but when challenging situations comes, we still miss out. So to understand these points is where we have been discussing on this particular title, the mask leadership. That means the whole book here, the mask leadership, has been written in terms of only during challenging situations, what are the leadership qualities which you need to possess? And that's what our first thumb rules also it's been. So today I'm going to share with you the 5 thumb rules for a constant growth as a leader. And the 5 thumb rules are going to be one by one, which is going to be shared now to understand more about the mask leadership dimensions. So let me take up a couple of more examples and then share with you. But as I take the example, let me quickly explain. There are 5 basic elements which is required for us to understand the mask leadership. And the 5 basic elements are here, which I'm putting it on my virtual background. Now, these are 5 basic elements. Let me share with you elements of leadership. 1, we have productive habits. That's what we talk about PH. Second, we have unproductive habits. This has also been deployed by most of the leaders. There's another which we have skills. And we have on the other side, the positive feelings. And on the right hand side here, we have the negative feelings. So now, these 5 are the basic elements of leadership. In terms of the mask leadership, how it's going to be added is what I'm going to share with you now. I'm just going to share only one small PPT just to keep it in a nutshell. What is covered in productive habits? What is covered in unproductive habits, skills, positive and negative feelings? Just one slide, it will help you all to understand much better. I believe the slide is seen. If yes, kindly type yes in the chat box so the slide is seen. It will be helping me to. Great. Thanks very much for the answers in the chat box. That's great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Karuna. So members, you can just see the 5 basic elements and the points what I have written. You know what? The reality is we have all the 5 basic elements, productive habits. All the human beings are having these points. We're talking about loyal, we're talking about respect, we're talking about honesty, supportive, help, friendly, trust. Yes, these all are productive habits. Trust me, every person as a leader, we possess all these qualities. But what makes the difference between a leader to another leader to another leader is when challenging situations comes to us, are we really demonstrating productive habits or are we getting into a terms of unproductive habits which are here, which is becoming dominating, becoming rude, blaming, complaining and arguing. The whole concept of the mask leadership here is how do we more and more demonstrate the here productive attitude is what we are going to focus. And the more and more we are going to focus on the productive attitude, that's when we will be able to undergo positive feelings. And all the feelings we want to be happy, peaceful, relaxed, surprised, these are the feelings we need. But the more and more we're undergoing the unproductive habits which are here, we undergo negative feelings within ourselves. So to understand this complete model is where I'm going to help you with the 5 important thumb rules. And that's when I ask the first thumb rule, whether how important is the challenging situation. So the thumb rule one is what I'm going to share with you all now. And then is where I'm going to take you through to give you more clarity about these 5 elements of leadership. So we're going to see and demonstrate where we are. So the first thumb rule, if you could note, that will be really great. On my screen, you could see the first thumb rule one is every challenging situation is an opportunity for growth. So do you all agree with this? If you agree with the first thumb rule, kindly type agree in the chat box and let me see how many agree, and we will be moving ahead more in detail. If you all agree with the thumb rule, every challenging situation is an opportunity for growth. Thanks very much for writing agreed. Great, that's great. But how come every challenging situation is an opportunity? Are every person able to see the opportunity? Are only people able to see only challenges? The more and more deeper we go is what we are able to understand. But let's give a clarity about what do you mean first by a challenging situation? Because very necessary is for us to understand. We all are saying that every human being is undergo challenging situation. Yes, even currently we are undergoing. Every day we undergo. But what do you mean by a challenging situation? So challenging situation means, in very simpler terms, I will share it. A challenging situation means a non-availability of a basic resource or a non-acceptance or by a person becomes a challenging situation. I'm repeating again, non-availability of a basic resource becomes a challenging situation. So what are non-availability of a basic resource? Let's see here. Now the non-availability, that could be plenty. It could be a non-availability of a machine. It could be non-availability of a material. It could be non-availability of a time, non-availability of money, manpower, energy, space. I can list them down. When I have non-availability of any of these basic resources, that's when it's a challenging situation. Let me take an example for you all. Let's take an example of non-availability of time. And how can we convert? How will we be able to start foreseeing ourselves that there are much more better opportunities are available rather than only challenges and problems? So let me take a quick example to share. Considering you are one of, I'm just giving a designation, a vice president of a company, all right? Okay, before me going ahead to the example or just a story-based example, I have a question. Kindly type in the chat box the answer. Do you think is growing by designations, is it growth? Kindly type in the answers, in the chat box, your answers. Do you think growing by designations, is it growth? So that's one who was answered. 2, thank you very much. Zinaldo, Karuna for answering. The 2 answers I received. Thanks very much for sharing. But others, feel free to answer the respective question. Do you think growing by designations is it growth? Yes or no? You can answer. Actually, the point I would like to highlight is growing by designations alone is just not growth, but growing with maturity becomes more of growth. So let me give an example as more of a situation. Considering just an example, I'm taking, considering you're vice president of a company. You are a person, you're very structured. You are more focused on timeline meetings, starts the meeting on time, ends the meeting on time. You're very systematic, process driven. Yeah, we all understand as a leader, we all need to possess such qualities. All right. So it's your son's birthday and people amongst your family have decided to go for a movie, which is an evening show. Said, okay, all decided, discussed, done. And said, yeah, you have certain work in the office, you'll go to the office and come back. Yeah, I understand now it's COVID, but considering you go to the office and you need to come back. Now you want to go for a movie show or you need to go out. You also, in the meantime, you also get another work in the office. And you think, and you prioritize, yeah, I promised my son for a movie show, so let me take it up. For him to go along with him for the movie and the family. So what you do, all of a sudden, which comes to the meeting, you say, I have another work and I need to move out, which is very important meeting, you are postponing. So you drive back home, and as you're driving home, you think that, yes, wow, you will be able to enjoy your movie time along with your family. So you give a call to your family members and say that, hey, I'll be reaching within 20 minutes, be ready. And as we are reaching, we need to quickly move to the movie hall. I said, yes, yes, all your family members have told, and especially your spouse has told, yes, we will move. And then by the time you arrive 20 minutes, and there you see, still there are people, your son, your daughter, and other member or other family members are yet to be ready. That's when possibilities are there. You may undergo. Time is running now, and you think, wow, non-available of time. Will we have time now to go to the movie? And you start cribbing. Why are you always late? Every time I told you I'm only been 20 minutes. Such dialogues that we're using, that's when we call it as an unproductive habits. Right? So then we can just go more and more deeper, you understand, when you start using them. And then from there, you go ahead and then you say, okay, let's move ahead. We will be getting ready fast and we leave. So in the meantime, other family members are getting ready. You are talking to your son, and then your son, you're interacting with your son. Why every time all the people are getting delayed only the last minute? You need to move fast. And then, yeah, your son is also consoling you. When you say, okay, come, let's move fast, it's going to be traffic. And then, yes, by the time all 10, 15 minutes is over, by the time you move, it's a lot of traffic you feel now. And the traffic, again, you start talking about the dialogues. I told you, should have started early, see again. And again, the dialogue starts. You guys are not actually working on time. Now, over a period of time, if such situations have you been undergoing, just an example of time I'm giving you. That means when there is a non-availability of time, time is a challenge, you need to reach to a destination or specified time, and you find challenging. Are you getting into unproductive habits of complaining, blaming, gossiping? Then you are getting into unproductive habits. That's when you are undergoing a challenging situation, but not as a leader's role. But on the other hand, productive habits is what you need to use. And that's what we're talking about, the productive habits here. I have to share the screen again for your understanding. In such situations, the productive habits of being more supportive to people, being more friendly with people, taking more responsibilities, what which we need to use. But are we demonstrating such qualities? We may be a vice president, we may be a manager, we may be a director, but when a challenging situation of a time, a material, money, manpower comes to us, am I demonstrating a productive habit or am I demonstrating an unproductive habit? It's a huge difference. And that's where we're talking about the first thumb rule. The more and more we are able to identify ourselves, that's when we're talking about every challenging situation is an opportunity for growth. That means the more and more we are able to see the opportunities of all the productive habits which is there with us. It's all within ourselves. And if I'm able to see them, that's when the growth is constant. So that's the first thumb rule. Every challenging situation is an opportunity for growth. And during the challenging situation, I'm only using unproductive habits. I only keep blaming and I only keep gossiping and I talk negative about the other person. You're always late. Then growth only stops my growth. And respective, I'm talking about the growth with respect to maturity. And that's what we're talking about in leaders cycle today. So with this first thumb rule, let me go to the second thumb rule. I have another poll which I'm going to use to you all. So the poll is what I'm going to launch it. Please go take ahead. So I believe all are clear with the first thumb rule. If yes, type yes in the chat box, and I will then go ahead with the next poll for you. Type yes in the chat box if all are okay with the first thumb rule. Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Senthil Kumar. And Senthil Kumar has answered yes on the poll box. We are 52 plus. Bhavna Gupta is also done. Thanks very much, Pankaj Vyas. Let me take ahead with the poll 2. I'm launching the poll, and the poll is launched. Please do type in your respective answers on the poll box. Are all human beings good? What do you think? Yes, no, maybe. Please feel free to share your answers in the poll box and I'll be able to help you what exactly and how human beings are and what we need to be doing. Are all human beings good? Great, hang another 15 more seconds and I am able to see 50% of the people have already given the vote and other people also, we can be able to do so. And the 5 seconds more and I've got still a mixed response. Good, that's nice. I've got a mixed response here. Great, thanks very much. And I am stopping the poll here now. Great. So I'm sharing the results. Great. Amongst the people who all have given the polling, we are able to see the results here. 60% of people have told that yes, all the human beings are good. 20% have told no, they are good. And then another 20% we've got the answers that yeah, maybe they are good. But definitely I can take up an answer. So here let me ask people who have chosen no, all the human beings are not good. And if possible, if any of the person who have told no, if you can just unmute yourself, I will be able to help you much better if it's possible. So, Peterson, if it's possible for them to unmute and then also talk, is it possible?
Yes, they can unmute themselves.
Okay. So the members, if you have shared your answers as no, and if any one of the person or the leader here can just unmute yourself, it'll add value. But nevertheless, let me proceed forward in the presence of time. So great. So let me share with you all what's the reality. Thumb rule 2 talks about, here I'm going to launch it or I'm going to put it on my background screen. Let's understand the second thumb rule. Thumb rule 2 is all human beings are good. And our perception towards people must be positive. I'm repeating again, all the human beings are good. What do I mean by the terminology good here? So let's take an example for one of the terminology called good. So I'm just sharing the screen again here for your understanding.
Yeah, Mr. Prakash, we received few responses from Karuna saying all human beings are good in their own way. Somehow they were not able to unmute themselves.
That's okay. Great, great. No, nevertheless, Peterson, thanks very much for sharing it. So all human beings are good in their own way is what Karuna says. Karuna, you're almost closer to a thumb rule. The fourth thumb rule comes. I will give you more clarity at that point of time. In their own ways, one of the very catchy word, and I'll be sharing it with you at that point of time, Mr. Karuna. All right. So, but nevertheless, thanks very much. So let's move ahead. What do you mean by good here? Because good means, yeah, we always say that my son is good, my daughter is good. I mean, we all say good is a general terminology, but what is good? And I'm just going to take you back to the slide sharing screen again to make you understand what is good. When we say people good means when people are demonstrating here all these productive attitude which I'm mentioning. I've mentioned only few, okay? There are many more. When you identify a person, it could be your spouse, it could be your subordinate, it could be your superior, your colleague, your friend. If you identify a person who is demonstrating such qualities of responsibility, initiative, ownership, the sharing, that means you say the person is good. And at the back end, let me give a quick reality. Every human being has all the qualities what I've mentioned. But what's making the difference between a person to person to person? It's just not knowing ourselves will give us the growth. Knowing that I know that I have to be helpful. I know that I have to be friendly. I know that I have to take ownership is not going to give us the growth. But knowing what we are knowing and then demonstrating what we are knowing, and especially demonstrating during challenging situations alone will give us the growth. And that's what we're talking about, the second thumb rule here, which is what I'm talking about. All human beings are good, and our perception towards people must be positive. Now, what happens if my perception towards a person is negative? Nothing. I may always say that my boss every time is always asking me too much of data. And why is this boss asking me almost too much of data? You may think about your boss negative. What's going to stop? It is only going to stop your growth. Nothing else. Not going to harm others. It's going to harm your own self. The more and more perception towards people are positive, that shows your growth is much faster. Just take an example. Let's take another example here. I just gave an example of vice president there. So here, let's take an example of a challenging situation. I gave 2 points. One challenging situation I told you is, the meaning of challenging situation is non-availability of a basic resource. It could be the basic resource I told, basic resource, material, time, manpower. On the other side, now I'm going to give an example. Non-acceptance of another person is also a challenging situation. When I say non-acceptance of another person, that's what I'm going to give you more clarity. What do you mean by non-acceptance? And this is what the day-to-day scenarios which we are facing. And the non-acceptance are here on my virtual background. You're able to see the non-acceptance of people is also a challenging situation. Non-acceptance of a process, non-acceptance of your ideas, non-acceptance of a culture, non-acceptance of a price, product, service. When a non-acceptance of people for any of the points which has been mentioned, still if you undergo, in that challenging situation you undergo and start demonstrating unproductive habits. That means, example, let me give you. You have an excellent idea to solve one of a challenging situation at your company. It could be in HR, it could be in any of the function which you operate. And this idea, you want to share it with your superior. And you go and explain it to your superior, and then your superior says, no, what, yeah, kya idea leke aata hai? Ye sab bekar ka idea. This all will not work in our company, I know. I am there in the company for past 15 years. This all ideas will not work. If your superior has told such a dialogue, and such dialogue is what, then you come back to your respective way and you get into one of a mode of unproductive habit, which I'm showing it here on the screen. It could be gossiping. You could be going to your respective colleague and say, "Arey, kya boss hai ye?" I'm giving him an idea, solution is not even ready to listen. Yes, that's a challenging situation. Non-acceptance of a person is a challenging situation, and a leader's role is in such a challenging situation. We need to start demonstrating the productive attitude which we're talking here. We need to demonstrate more trust with him. We need to be sharing our ideas more precisely to your superiors. We need to be more simple in terms of sharing our ideas. We need to have persistence in sharing the ideas. Rather, if as a leader, if a manager, I get into, no, I'm going to go negative, and then next time I say, whatever idea I take and go to my superior, he is not going to agree. Then why should I take? And if I leave away my ideas, that means I am demonstrating an unproductive habit. So that means in a challenging situation where I need to use a productive habit, I do not use, and I end up using unproductive habit. So that means that's what I'm sharing about the second thumb rule. Listen very carefully to the second thumb rule. I'm sharing it again on the screen for you on the virtual background. The second thumb rule is, the second thumb rule is all human beings are good, and our perception towards people must be positive. Now, it does not mean that your boss is bad. Just because your boss or it could be your superior has in fact demonstrated he was not listening to you. He was negative, okay? Your boss was negative. He was not listening to you and he was dominating. And he said, no, 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 your ideas are not going to be valid here. It's not going to be useful. Just because it's dominating, do you think it's bad? No. In a challenging situation, it is also necessary for your boss to shift himself to productive attitude. By nature, people are good. It's only your boss also or superior also needs to demonstrate such productive habits. And that's the reality. And that's where we're talking about the second thumb rule. All human beings are good, but our perception towards people must be positive. So let me go ahead quickly to the thumb rule 3 now. And if all is okay, kindly type yes in the chat box so that we'll go ahead to thumb rule 3. And quickly move ahead. And thumb rule 3 is what I'm going to show you. Before I showcase the thumb rule 3, let me quickly add a poll, one more poll here for us. Third thumb rules poll, let me share it here to you all. The poll is launched here, exact 45 seconds only. I'm limiting my time now. Quickly, members, attend the poll. Are human beings 100% perfect? What's your answer? Do you think human beings are 100% perfect? It could be either a person, it could be your role model, it could be your leader, it could be your spouse, it could be your father, mother, it could be your boss, subordinate. I leave it to you. These are the roles what we play in a day-to-day life. But are human beings 100% perfect? The last 10 more seconds, and then I'm going to stop the poll. And here's where I'm going to look forward and stop the poll now. Thanks very much for your answers. And the answers are here, what you've been shared for the poll. Almost 4% of people are saying, yes, human beings are 100% perfect. And then 91% of people are saying no. And we also have 4% of people are saying maybe. Okay, so to understand, I need to show you the results, right? So these are the results here. I've just shared the results. So I'm stopping the results now. And let me share with you all the third thumb rule. The third thumb rule is actually very, very simple. Reality is this. There was a research taken, and you know what it has been shared in the research is when challenging situation comes, almost 70% of the leaders start using or demonstrating the unproductive habits. That's what it's talking about, and not the productive habits. 70% of people use unproductive habits. But what a leader needs to be doing is where I'm going to share third thumb rule 3. The thumb rule 3 says no human being is 100% perfect. It's including me, including you, including your superior, including our parents, including your respective role model, if you can understand. But that's the ground reality. No human being is 100% perfect. But since nobody is perfect, can I just live it? That's when the leader's role comes. However, we need to move towards perfection for a constant growth. And constant growth is always available only when we are moving towards perfection. That means the process needs improvement. Our respective roles needs more clarity and improvement in our respective companies. Just look at it. In our companies, we have more clarities on KRAs, needs more improvement. Everywhere, in fact, the continuous improvement, the factors, what we talk about, the continuous improvement, the concept is all about, yes, that every time there is an improvement. When there's no human being is 100% perfect, no process is 100% perfect, no product and service. And that's when we cannot leave it as it is. That's when leaders keep constantly growing by moving ourselves towards perfection. And that's when they constantly keep growing. And just understand the thumb rule. For more deeper insights to understand the thumb rule is where I'm just quickly sharing the points. Out of the so many productive, unproductive, I've shared few, right? In fact, I'm sharing here, look here, we just look on the screen again. The unproductive habits are plenty. The productive attitudes are plenty. But out of these, which I've just taken at least seven to showcase, how can we move towards perfection is where I'm going to share it here. So that's what I'm going to share it with you all. How do we move towards perfection is through my next one. You could see, look at here on my background. It says, let's talk 7 unproductive habits. Research has proven during challenging situations, most of the managers, senior managers get into the 7 unproductive habits, which is already on my screen. That means they end up either gossiping, end up in judging or assuming, end up in thinking negatively, get into complaining mode, lying, excuses or blaming or dominating. Research has proven that out of when challenging situations come, that means challenging situations are told, either a non-availability of a basic resource, it could be machine, time, manpower. Just imagine when there's a shortage of a manpower. Do I talk to my colleagues negatively? Do I dominate people? And I complain that your department is not giving me manpower. What is your department working? That means I'm only demonstrating unproductive habits. But on the other side, if you have to keep moving towards perfection, is where we have 7 productive habits: polite, positive, proactive, respect. And during challenging situations, let's start demonstrating the 7 productive habits, which you're able to see on my virtual background now. And trust me, as I told, knowing does not make any big difference at all. What we know today, what I'm discussing, I'm sure people are aware, but what we know, the more we are demonstrating them, especially these productive habits, are we demonstrating during a challenging situation alone makes the difference. And just to do that is where, let's take one example out of the 7 unproductive habits. There are plenty I can go in detail, but I'm going to take only one example, which is very commonly used. What's the difference? Type in the chat box. What's the difference between complaint and a feedback? Quickly, I'm expecting your answers in the chat box. What do you feel is the difference between complaint and a feedback? Ritesh Kumar Shah's excellent answer, Ritesh Kumar, in the chat box you gave. Except good, no one is perfect. So good itself is a word. Oh, except God, is it? Okay, you're saying except God, nobody is perfect. Thanks, Ritesh, for sharing. We have answers to the complaint now. Complaint is one way. Thanks, Sandal Kumar. Feedback is in a positive way, whilst others not. Okay. Feedback is mutual. Okay. Other answers from the members. Let's see more answers. What's the difference between complaint and the feedback? Type in your answers. The more we type in, we understand much more better. There could be at least one difference you can share. I'll give you one quick example also. Feedback is focused towards growth, complaints to criticize. Thanks very much, Zenildo. Whereas complaint is a negative note. Thanks very much, Ritesha. Good improvement, a few people writing. Okay, thanks very much for your answers in the chat box. Let me quickly give the difference between complaint and a feedback in 3 simple points. And 3 simple points, you can make a note of it. Very, very nutshell, I'm going to make it for you. The points are here. If you are in the complaining mode, you will be going negative. You will start talking about past, and you will only keep talking about the problem. But when you, in other words, when you're going to go give feedback, you are more positive. Or in other words, people talk about constructive is a word which is being used. So you positive or constructive, and you end up getting into more future. You talk about future, and you are focused more on solutions. Just let's a quick example between these two. Considering you have to tell your spouse, okay, just making it very simple. Example, I'm just saying it could be both a husband or wife, and today either of the people are cooking, either husband or wife, both are cooking. So considering your spouse has made the food, and the food you have to give a feedback or a complaint, how do you go about giving? And a quick example I'm just sharing. If I end up sharing it negatively, that means no. Or maybe let's take a dish. Let's take a dish like you have paneer butter masala, your respective spouse has made. You say, no, the dish is not so good. That means this dialogue articulates, no, the dish is not good. It articulates negativity. It is talking about past. It is also highlighting the problem. But on the other hand, if I have to use really feedback dialogue, that means my dialogue, my words has to be more and more positive. That means I could say, yes, it could be better if there is a more salt is added, it could be much better. Next time when we do, we can add on a little more salt. Now what am I doing? I'm talking about past. It could be better if more salt is added. I'm not saying there is no salt at all. I'm saying a salt could be added. I'm talking about in the future, when we do it, we can add on more salt. So I'm focusing on solution and future-oriented positivity. Members, just think even in our own respective scenarios and companies, do we give most of the time during team meetings? Do we complain to other departments, especially cross-functional team meetings? I'm talking in reality during cross-functional team meetings. Do we really undergo into negative? Do we talk about past? Or do we talk about more problems? Or do we really get more focused into future solutions? You know what research has proven? Almost 70 to 80% of the most of the cross-functional meetings, they spend almost 80% of the time spent only about talking about past, talking about the problem. Only 20% of the time of half an hour meeting has been focused only on future and solution. But the reality is, it should be the vice versa. Analyze the past. Our role is, we have so much of data which we can gather. Analyze the past, but the discussion should be about future. Then you see the solutions are much faster. As leaders, we are also supporting people. When we are just analyzing the past, we need past data, but our role is not to talk about the past. Our role is to talk about future as leaders. And if we as leaders during cross-functional team meetings, am I getting to any of these modes, then quickly jump ourselves into feedback mode, which will help us in way of leading our respective roles as a leader. So with that is where I'm talking about the third thumb rule, and then let me move on quickly to the fourth and the fifth, which is very back-to-back and fast. I'll be sharing it. The third thumb rule is no human being is 100% perfect. That's what I said. And then, however, we need to keep moving towards perfection. That's when we get a constant growth. So just think about your own self, where you are, introspect our own selves, where we are currently. So my next question is going to be here for you all on the poll box for you all. All right. So let me share the quick poll for the next question, or the next thumb rule, I would say. The poll is what I am launching. So we're talking about the feedback while giving to others. All right. That's what I spoke now, an example. But let's ask this particular question. Is it necessary to collect feedback about ourselves for constant growth? Okay, that's a word called growth is missing in the question. So the question is it necessary to collect feedback about ourselves, about where we are, how do we do, how as a leader am I? Do I need to improve on my process? Do I need to improve on my decisions? Do I need to improve with the interacting with my team members? Do I need to collect such feedback for my constant growth? And that's what people are talking about. Yes, people are talking about no, people are highlighting about maybe. Thanks very much for answering the poll. Most of the members have answered the poll as well. Let me show you the results. The people who have taken up the poll, 77% of people are saying, yes, we need to take feedback. 5% no, feedback is not required. I am already a leader. I'm a senior manager in a company. I'm a vice president in a company. Why do I need feedback? Why do I need to ask a feedback about myself? And there are people who say, maybe a manager needs. If he's not perfect, then he needs. But the reality, let me tell you all, we need feedback for a constant growth. Recently, when Infosys Narayan Murthy had shared, saying that a company can constantly grow and a leader can constantly grow if an interval of every 6 months once a feedback about the leader is taken by other people. That's a reality. And just ask your question, ask yourself this particular question. How many times have I asked a feedback about myself to my superiors, to my subordinates, from my colleagues about myself? And as a leader, it's very, very necessary. That's when we're going to share with the fourth thumb rule, which is here. Every person is correct in their own way. And that's why, in fact, we had one of the members who was talking about in their own way. They are productive, or they are, in fact, good is what you said. I forgot the name of the member, my apologies. But he said they are good in their own way, rightly told, but I'm saying it's just making kind of word good. The good is what I talked about, all the points. So every person is correct in their own way until I receive a feedback. And as I'm growing in my career with my designations, and as I'm growing my designations, I feel that every decision I take is correct. Every dialogue what I spoke is correct. Every process what I've said is correct. But only when I really take feedback from people about my behavior, my process, my skills, that's when I really understand whether am I really correct or I need to improve, for which very, very important points are required. So let me share with you a few more points, saying that, in fact, if you ask, is there a correct or wrong? I would really say there's nothing like correct or wrong. What is most appropriate? So let me give you a quick one activity, one small activity. I'm going to share it on the screen. Kindly participate in the activity. It's a very quick and simple activity, okay? Just let's see how decisions you all are taking and type the answers, okay? If you on the virtual background, you're able to see 4 different diagrams. Here, this is where the number 1, first diagram number 1, diagram number 2, 3, and 4. Members, the question is very simple. If these 4 words, Chennai, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, and India, has to be allotted or assigned to a respective diagram number, which is the diagram number you think you will assign it to? Because very simple, we have 4 circles in every diagram number 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 words in the question, which is Chennai, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, India. If you have to pair it up, it's like almost match the following, okay? Which number do you think? Is it diagram number 1 or diagram number 2 or 3 or 4? Type in your answers in the chat box. So which diagram number do you think is most appropriate? Diagram number 1 is here, the zone, which the intersection is there. Diagram number 2 is here. Diagram number 3 is 2 circles. I believe you're able to see that. If yes, no, kindly type in the chat box. Perfect. I'm getting the answers now. People are tearing 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay. Now let's understand. Now let me share that there are possibilities also 3 can come. Let me quickly narrate it much faster so that we are able to quickly move ahead. Already it's time also for us. Now, 1 people have answered, 1 may be thinking India is the circle here and other 3 are Delhi, Tamil Nadu, and Chennai. All are within India. So that's an intersection. Okay, that's what their views are. Okay. Now, number 2 people may be thinking, or the diagram number 2 they are talking about here, saying that diagram number 2 goes as Chennai is inside Tamil Nadu, and we have Delhi, and so all are 3, all are within India. So India is the first circle, then Tamil Nadu is the second bigger circle. Then inside Tamil Nadu, which is a state, inside that a city which is Chennai. Then comes Delhi. That's a thought process you may have in the second. People might have chosen 2 as the answer. Right? That is also right. Yeah, now we're getting tricky more. Karuna says 3. Rightly said Karuna. I mean, I wish I would have got an opportunity to unmute yourself, but nevertheless, 3 says, very simple. Right? India's capital is Delhi. Tamil Nadu's capital is Chennai. So I've taken 3. So Parvati, yeah, rightly told, is too tricky. Rightly told. But let's understand here. Every person is correct in their own way. It's a thought process, what you look with the available information which you have. Am I going more deeper into my thoughts? Am I going more deeper into the information? The more and more deeper I go with the information is when I will be able to take an appropriate decision. But please understand, we cannot say that, no, diagram number 1 people have taken is wrong. Diagram number 2 people, no, you're also wrong. 3, you're also wrong. No. In a cross-functional team meeting, that's how it goes. Instead, you say that, no, you're wrong. This is not possible. Rather than saying such dialogue, let's start appreciating. Let's start respecting. Let's start acknowledging. And that's when we talk about feedback here. That's when I'm highlighting here AAR method, which is when cross-functional team meeting goes to you, let's start doing so. This, which you able to see on my screen, accept, acknowledge, and respect the other person's views and opinions. Start respecting the views and opinions of others. Every person is correct in their own way. Your wife is correct in her own way. Your husband is correct in his own way. Your superior is correct in his own way. But is it appropriate is what we need to think in for more deeper insights. It's not that you're wrong, is it more appropriate? And that will only happen only when you have more data, more analysis you do. And that's when I said, go more deeper, feedback, analyze the past, and start discussing about future. You see, you will be able to be a much better leader. So these 3 which you can do ahead, and I'm closing up with my last thumb rule for the day. I know it's time. Members will not take much more time. Closing it up with my last thumb rule and last poll for the day also. And the poll is here, which I'm going to share it on the screen for you all. And the poll is this. So can a human being change any other human being? So quickly, your answers on the chat, on the respective polls. Let's see. Can a human being change any other human being? Again, we're getting multiple answers. There are people who are saying yes. People are saying no. People are talking about maybe. Okay, good. And the 10 more seconds. All right, and then I'm stopping the poll. Thanks very much to people who have taken up the poll so far. Thanks very much. And then let me share the results. And the results are here. Around 40% of people are saying, yes, you can change other human beings. 50% are saying, no, we cannot change human beings. There are 10% of people are saying that maybe. Okay, so let me tell you the reality here. The reality is, no human being can really change the other human being. But what we can do as a leader, our role, honestly, that's a reality. I cannot change you. Change is an internal process within oneself. Let me be very clear. What I can do from my side is only I can influence the other people. When I say influence, I can influence my subordinates. I can influence my family members, and I can influence my friends, colleagues, my teammates. Change is only happens when the influence is done and people start introspecting within themselves. And I only can guide people. Change is an internal process with every human being. And as a human being, and I cannot change, let me tell you, I'm almost been 15, 16 years into the training and development. It's not that as a coach, my role is to change the behavior of the other person. Let me tell you, on a practical example, as a coach, I can only guide people and I can only inspire show the way forward and path how it needs to be done. But as a coachee, it's very important how much with interest they are in accepting to change themselves within. And unless or until the change themselves within isn't possible, no other human being can change any other human being. So these are the 5 basic thumb rules that I'd like to share as a part of mask leadership. And I'm sure I've given sufficient insights to you. Let's go back. Let's see, demonstrate. One last time, I'm sharing the slide to you all here currently, as the slide talks about these unproductive to productive. So during challenging situations, trust me, our role is to start demonstrating productive habits, which I've mentioned here. Stop using unproductive habits. That's when all these skills are helping us. Only through the skills, you will shift yourself from unproductive attitudes to productive. So the more and more you are demonstrating productive attitude, you end up undergoing positive feelings. And the more and more you are demonstrating unproductive attitude, you end up undergoing negative feelings. So let's start becoming more productive leaders. And thanks very much, Peterson, for giving the opportunity. And over to you, Peterson.
So, Mr. Prakash, we have received one question from Karuna. She says, how can you improve on skills when there is non-availability of resources?
Okay, that's a great question. Thanks very much, Karuna, for asking the question. How will we be able to improve on our skills when there is a non-availability of resources? Again, which resource is non-availability is what you need to be a little clear. But I'm just taking in a generic question, non-availability of a resource. Here could be another person, another manpower. So if it's a manpower, that means you would like to get coached and the skill which you want to improve, and you're looking for a better coach, and I'm identifying challenge in how a better coach can I need. Oh, wow, wonderful. You also say the same, a better mentor or a coach or a company. Okay, good. Thank you very much. So yeah, for a better coach, then your role is only to keep identifying. But the challenges are there. There are plenty number of coaches available. That's when such platforms like HRAI helps us to network with people as well. Our role is, once you are able to, in fact, how can you improve is, you need to identify. Identify the coach. Actually speaking, you can either go to ICF Coaching Federation. You have plenty number of coach. As a mass leadership coach, myself, we have thousands of coaches. Your role becomes, Karuna, is only we have coaches, we need to identify. And that's a challenging situation for you. And if you like to move towards the challenging situation, interact with the coaches and choose one, you're there on the right path. But if you can keep telling that, no, but how do I identify? How do I identify? Then that only keeps on dragging, procrastination. So I believe, Karuna, I have answered your question, Karuna.
Yes,
Thanks very much.
shared
If
a
any other
response.
questions also, I'll be happy to answer.